Hey everybody, this week's episode of the R&R Show is brought to you by Pegasus North America. Hello, Ruel, how are you, sir?
Hello, Richard. I am fantastic as always. How are you doing?
I am excited. I am very excited.
Yes.
We started this countdown back in February, if you can believe it. Oh my gosh, it has taken forever to get here, but we are finishing this week our top 100 games of all time. And, phew. I mean, I knew it was going to take this long, but
Yeah.
I don't think I felt it, but I feel it today. We are finally getting across the finish line.
Yeah, I remember talking about this, way back earlier this year, and I was like, okay, I was excited to do it because I haven't actually done my own personal top 100 of all time. I mean, so to be able to do this with you, I was like really looking forward to it. But as the weeks went on, I was like, wow, you were right. It was not going to be like just, one and done. We were going to take our time and go through all these great games, and here we are, the ultimate episode, the top 10 of all time.
Although, folks, if you haven't caught everything and you don't want to spoil the end of the list, look down there at the bottom of the screen. There's a reminder. You can go to rnr.rahdo.com. That is a playlist on YouTube that lists, I think this is episode 44 today. So the prior 43 episodes are all right there. And 9 of those 43 episodes got us to where we are today. So you can go back in time and catch numbers 190, 89 to, et cetera, et cetera. But today, we are here to finish it. And before we do that, though, a little bit of housekeeping for the show. Up until now, the R&R Show has been a weekly show streamed live on Twitch every Tuesday and then brought over to YouTube on Wednesday. I don't know if you're watching live right now or if you're watching this years in the future, but I wanted to let you know we are switching to a monthly show. From now on, at the final Tuesday of every month, Ruel and I will get back together and we will do another top 10 countdown for y'all. There's several reasons for the change, some business reasons, some personal reasons. I'm not going to go into it right now, but if you'd like to, you can watch the extended edition of this show. Hit that eye in the top right corner screen or go follow the links down in the show notes because, hey, there's not just this top 10. What is today? June 7th, 2022? We spent hours ranking games, doing mini reviews, and talking about pop culture trivia. And one of the things we talked about were the reasons that we are switching from a weekly to a monthly format, with maybe occasional bonus episodes thrown in here and there. Again, go watch the extended edition, and you can get all the details about that. But I think, Ruel, we have waited long enough, have we not?
We have waited long enough, so we're getting ready to do our top 10. And just a reminder, folks, go watch that extended edition. We do talk about all the reasons why we're making the change. And as I said during the show there, like, you're not getting rid of me that easily, folks. No. I'm going to be here at least once a month, maybe even more, depending on some of the reasons we talk about during the show.
Exactly,
but,
yeah.
Hey, I see a game on your table, my friend. What the heck is it?
I thought you'd never ask. Let's go to the overhead, which I didn't confirm wasn't crashed. It hasn't crashed. Hooray! This show is off to an exemplary start. The overhead camera didn't crash. Ruel, this is First Rat, a new game from Pegasus Spiel and Pegasus North America, the sponsor of this week's episode. And I don't know, have you tried this yet? Are you familiar with this game?
I am familiar with it. I haven't tried it yet.
Okay, here's the deal. Jen and I, we played it for the first time last night. And honestly, I went in thinking, oh yeah, this is just going to be a cute, lightweight kid, mostly for families, a gateway style game. And I love the theme. It is all about junkyard rats who have decided they've got to get to the moon because the moon is made of cheese. And so they're going to use old busted up calculators, vinegar bottles, green pea cans, whatever they can to build a rocket to be the first ratstronauts into space. And you will actually pull it off. Somehow they actually do it. And I thought, oh, that's just going to be a cute, fun game. Hey, honey, let's play this, the night before we're filming live, because it'll be a nice light thing. And no, it's not. Oh my gosh.
Wow.
This is a surprisingly rich game. Do not be fooled. You might think, oh, this is, for kids. This is a gamer geek friendly game. At its heart, what happens is each of us has multiple cute, adorable little rat meeples. And on your turn, you are going to do one of two things. All summarized right here on an excellent player aid, I must say. You are either going to pick one of your rats anywhere along the road up to the launch pad, and you can move it up to 5 spaces forward and then collect whatever's is there, whether it is some cheese, which is money for rats, or whether it's some baking soda, which obviously is going to be the chemical booster fuel we need to actually take off. The whole, you've done the science experiments. You've seen them where the baking soda, all that kind of stuff. Or light bulbs. We need light because we are lighting our way down the road. So you can either pick one of your rats and you have multiples, Moon 5, or you can do multiple rats. They can only move up to 3 spaces. And the trick is, the puzzle, they all have to land on the same space. So if it were my turn right now, I might say, okay, I'm going to move. This is a perfect turn. This is right in the middle of our second game. We got about halfway through a second game because we loved it so much. But I said, let's just stop because I'll just set it up. So my next move might be, I'm going to move 3 of my rats. I've got 2 here at the starting. I've got this one. And if I'm moving 3, they can only move up to 3 spaces. I'll have this one go 1, 2, 3. It's going to get some cheese. Now, every other rat I move has to land on cheese as well. I'll have this one go 1, 2. And I'll have this one go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And didn't I just break the rules? I did not. Because this is Lola the Rat. I just described the basics of this game. The interesting puzzle of every turn you are trying to decide whether you're going to move one really far to get what you want, and the further you go down the road, and by the way, this is a modular road. Every time you play the game, you're going to get a different combination of stuff you're chasing after, and different point scoring opportunities on all the different meters as well. So there's a lot of variety here. But one of the places you can stop at are the 3 different shops where you can spend all the cheese you have accumulated to unlock cool special powers. Like, I became Lola the Rat, and Lola the Rat's power is she gets to move 2 extra spaces no matter what. On a previous turn, I had used Neil Armrat, another superpower I've got. His power is he can move however far he wants. But once he gets on the ship, his power is done. But he allowed me to really make some cool moves. There are shortcuts you can take, but you have to spend the resources to do it. And there are shops where you can go shopping. Well, the interesting thing is if you make it to one of these shops and you don't have the cheese to buy one of these pieces of junk that gives you special powers, you can steal them, which means your rat goes all the way back down to the bottom and starts again. And you might think, oh no, that's terrible. Is it worth it to get a power but then lose all that progress? Yes, it is, because I mentioned one of the things you can do is you can light up the road. You can see at this point, I've lit up this much of the road. That means every time my rat stops on any one of these lit spaces for me, I get more resources than normal. So this turn, I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 cheese. And that's huge, because the other thing you can do at the end of your turn, after you've harvested and maybe interacted with the board and doing all kinds of stuff, you can commit your resources. If you've got enough equipment, you can start building the rocket. If you've got enough cheese, you can spend it to outfit the rocket, because those astronauts are going to need the cheese. And that's how you score points, by working on, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 different objectives you are chasing after. And again, they're variable points every time you play. And then if all that weren't enough, I didn't mention, hey, you can also just go get apple cores. Rats love to eat apple cores. They spend the cheese, they eat the apple cores. And whenever you grab those, you move on this cool little rondelle where everybody has this marker. You always go clockwise, but if I had done a move that earned me 5 steps on here, I might go 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I'd have a choice. I can come here for 5 and get a bonus, another special power, or I could keep going this way so that when I come up here, I could unlock another rat. Or I could keep going even farther and score points. So, again, This looks... do not be fooled, folks. This looks like, for kids, a sweet, unassuming, charming little gateway game. And don't get me wrong, I think this is maybe a Gateway Plus game. There's more going on here than a Carcassonne or a Ticket to Ride by far. And Jen and I were both blown away. Jen, when she was like sitting for 3 or 4 minutes, okay, once you've got 3 rats on the board and you're trying to figure out which shortcuts you're going to take, and you're okay, I'm going to move multiples. Can I get them all on spots? What powers can you get? It's really impressive, and it really shouldn't come as a surprise, because one of the co-designers is Virginio Gigli. And oh my gosh, look this guy up on Board Game Geek. Some of your favorite super heavy Euros that have come out from last year, he has had a hand in developing. So I was very impressed. with First Rat.
Wow,
yeah.
I am excited about it. I just love the fact that there's a term called ratstronauts. Like, that alone's got me sold on the game. And yeah, that looks fantastic. I mean, the fact that it has a rondelle, that's so neat. Oh, wow.
It's got all these different mechanisms all coming together. And, I mean, I've seen other games like this. Like, there was a game a few years ago, Robin Run, which a lot of people said, oh, that's for kids. And like, no, it's one of the most clever, heavy deduction games that have come out. Just had cartoony artwork. Oh, My Farm Shop, also from Pegasus Spiel, I think is the best Machikoro-inspired, rolling dice and harvesting goods style game. Even better than Space Base, which I know is sacrilege in some areas. But again, people pass it over because they think, oh, it looks like, for kids. Do not be fooled. First Rat's got a lot going on. And both Jen and I really enjoyed it. I mentioned we were playing it late last night and we thought, oh, this is going to be a nice lightweight thing. And we're like, an hour and a half later, oh my gosh. This is so heavy. What are we going to do? Granted, we were tired, but very impressive game. First Rat from sponsor of the show, Pegasus North America and Pegasus Spiel. Okay.
All right. Cool.
Whew. Okay, we have done our due diligence. We have earned our keep. And now, folks, at long last, it is time. Do you have any final words, Ruel, before we begin the top 100 of all time finale, the top 10?
Yeah, before we get going, let's talk about the secret word.
Yes, let's do that, shall we? Yes. We're not done yet, because I just talked about this so much, some people might be saying, oh, that sounds good, I might like to try it. Well, you're in luck, folks. Because you're watching today, you might win a copy of this for free. Ruel, how do they win?
Folks, you're going to watch the show, and one of us is going to mention the secret word, and that's the word you're keeping an eye out, the ear out for. It's Dolly, D-O-L-L-Y.
Right.
And why did we choose that? Watch the extended show. We give our reasons for the reason why we're picking that word, but the word is Dolly, and what you're going to do is listen for it. When one of us says it, take note of the game we're talking about at that time, and then send it in an email to contest@rahdo.com, and you'll be entered to win your very own copy of First Rat.
Yes. And again, I don't think you'll be disappointed. A very, very impressive title, if I do say so myself.
All right.
Okay. Great. Then I think, without further ado, it is time to begin the top 100. Although, of course, what did I just do, Ruel? I deleted my top 10 list. Oh, no. It's fine. It's fine. I'll just type them in as I go.
Okay.
There might be a few typos down below there, folks. I already had my list all set up, but I accidentally deleted it and then saved the text file. I'm not going to try and dig the history out of Dropbox right now. It'll be fine. Okay. And besides, I've got a little bit of time because we're going to start with our number 10, which I believe is your entry, correct?
Yes, that is correct. So here we are, folks. We've done it. We've gone all the way from this past February to now June, and we are made it to our top 10 of our top 100 games of all time. I'm going to kick things off with our number 10. It is Terraforming Mars.
Okay, and of course.
This game, of course, it had to make this list. It's been hugely influential. It's still ranked highly on BGG. It came out, it's hard to believe, it came out 6 years ago. This is a game from 2016. I feel like, parts of me feel like it's still new, and parts of me still feel like it's been around forever. This is, one of the best engine building games you're going to play. It's got a huge deck of cards. And again, this was influential on games like Underwater Cities, even Wingspan, and the most recent BGG hotness, Arc Nova.
Sure.
They take the engine building to different levels, and I love the theme. I'm a sci-fi guy, and you're basically turning Mars into a habitable planet. What can you do? Events. You've got events you can do. You're going to get resources. You can use those resources to raise the temperature, raise the oxygen on the planet. You're going to place ocean tiles there. Oh my gosh. I remember when this came out, it was really tough for me to get a game of it because it was sold out everywhere. And then anytime I went to a game night or convention, every single person was playing. I could not get on the table to this. It was hard for me to get onto it. So I finally got a copy, and boy, oh boy, it lived up to the hype and then some. I actually, these days, if I was going to play this, I might play Terraforming Mars Ares Expedition because it's a more streamlined version of it. But the classic is still fantastic in my book. I love it as a solo game. It's one of my favorite solo games of all time, where you just, you're trying to get all three factors up there, the temperature and oxygen and the ocean tiles out there.
The water, yeah. Mm-hmm.
The water before a certain amount of time. I think it's like 14 rounds or whatever. But Wow, this game it's an engine builder. It's brilliant, and one caveat though that I know some people have trouble with is the length of time. It's not a short game. You're not going to be here for 60 minutes and play. No, you're not. It's a full 2 hours. However, I always play it with the Prelude expansion.
Yes, that is definitely worth mentioning. Folks, if you tried it out when it first came out, like I did, the Prelude expansion changes everything.
Yes, it kicks in your engine right away, gets you going, and when I play the base game now, I always include Prelude because I think it's an absolute must for it, just to get the engine going faster and get into the meat of the game. So that's why it's our number 10, folks. A wonderful, wonderful game, Terraforming Mars.
I'm really glad you mentioned that. Now, do you think it would have made it this high without the Prelude expansion? Or does that bump it up into this exalted list of lists?
You know what? You're right. The more I think about it, yes. Without the Prelude, it's probably dropping a little lower in my estimation. But with the Prelude, it remains in my personal top 10 and top 5 of all time.
Good choice. And man, when this game first came out, it screamed up the charts on Board Game Geek so fast. And it's just remained there as one of the highest ranked games of all time. And it comes in at number 10. An excellent choice, Terraforming Mars. But there's even more to come, folks. Yes. If you ask me, I'm going to say as great as converting the Red Planet is, I would rather at any given time play our number 9, Twa, which is an older title. I think it came out in maybe 2012, maybe 2011 from Pearl Games. And it's so old, in fact, that I went and I looked at my run-through that I was going to put on screen for this morning. And it's so janky. I just couldn't. I was so ashamed. Like, really? That's what my videos used to look like. So I'm just using some pictures of it from Board Game Geek because, but man, this game is just the bee's knees. It is about, building up a Renaissance era city, the city of Twa. Although, folks, if you're listening instead of watching, because some people will check this out on the Rahdo Talks Through podcast, it's spelled Troys or Troyes, but it's pronounced Twa. And it is, what would you call it? It's, I guess, a dice drafting game at its heart, which is one of my favorite mechanisms of all time. And the trick of it is we are all civic leaders of this city. Every round, there are new external problems that are putting pressure on everybody. Plagues, raiders, high taxes, whatever it might be, all kinds of problems. And the first thing we do every round is, after we've rolled our dice and we're thinking about how am I going to spend these dice to activate all these different buildings or build new buildings or, have the people of the town achieve different goals for me, well, you might have to sacrifice some of those dice to fight off the problems. That right off the bat puts so much communal pressure on everybody every round, because if you don't fight those off, they just stick around, round after round, and keep putting more and more pressure. And there are a lot of points to be had for being the player who actually solves those problems for the city. But that's just the beginning of every round. The true beating heart of this game is, hey, everybody's got a handful of cards based on what they've invested in the city, whether they've invested in civic infrastructure or economic stuff. So you have different colored dice. And I take my dice, I roll them, I put in front of me. And now here's the important thing, folks. Those are not your dice. Those are potentially your dice, but this is a dice drafting game and any die can be grabbed by anybody. So if I see you rolled the perfect red 6 that I am so desperate for and I couldn't roll it, hey, no problem. I'll just give you a coin or two and grab a couple of your dice and add them to my own so I can do a really big super action. And this game, it's got engine building elements. It's got, you can work on the chapel. You can invest in infrastructure. You can fight there's so many different things you can do, but it's all driven by this very interactive dice draft. And a lot of people over the years have sold me, Ruel, because, hey, aren't you the ultimate Care Bear? Why do you enjoy that game? Why do you put it on such a high pedestal when it's you constantly stealing dice throughout the game? Jen and I have never looked at it that way because they're not our dice. Yes, they are dice that I can get for free. All the other dice just cost me some money. So, of course, I'm more preference for those. But, hey, you know what? If you took my dice, you gave me some cash. I'll use that cash to buy dice from someplace else. It all comes out in the wash, and it is a beautiful, super crunchy game with tons of replayability. And man, if you get the Ladies of Twa expansion, the game explodes in complexity. But you don't even need that. Just the base game, Twa. It's one of the best Euros ever designed. From Pearl Games, the design trio superstars of Javier George, Sebastian Dujardin, and Elena Orban. This is a masterpiece, one of the greatest modern Euros of all time, our number 9, Twa.
I was wondering where this would fall on the list, and it makes sense that it's top 10. Now, I'm gonna tell you this. I am a little sad you didn't show that video, the shaky video that you did originally, because a fun fact, because of that video many years ago, before I was even associated with your channel, I got the game because of that.
Oh, wow.
Video. I kid you not. I got the game, and here's the thing. I found it in my local convention at a flea market, bought it used for, a really wonderful price, and then it sat on my shelf of opportunity for years. So you helped me get it, but then it just sat. But right before the pandemic, I went to my local game night and played it, and I was like, wow, this lived up to all the hype and then some.
Yep.
Just an awesome, game. And, like you said, the whole dice drafting thing, even though, it's just a big pool of dice, and yes, you're going to steal from each other, but yeah, it always comes down to watch because you're going to get paid for people taking your dice. So yeah, I never had a problem with it. And you're right, it's a wonderful game, and I can't wait to play it again. It's been sitting on my shelf a little too long, and I need to teach it to Michelle. She hasn't played it yet.
Oh my gosh, yeah, it's a heavy game, folks. It's a crunchy game. I barely scratched the surface. There's so many more things I love about this game, like the fact when somebody passes and stops taking dice, they start getting passive income while everybody else stays in. It's just, I love that. You are just balled up in tension-filled knots from start to finish with this game, and I love every second of it. But what could possibly top that? What's our number 8?
Well, for me, we're talking about nice interactions. Here's something with a little less nice interaction, but it's one of my all-time favorites, and this is why it's going to be our number 8. It is Blood Rage. You can just say it that way. Blood Rage. When I first got into the hobby back in 2015, this was all the rage, Blood Rage, and I've got to play it at a local game night, and I instantly fell in love with it. It is, again, you're not going to be shy about anything. You are going to fight and take over areas here on the land. It's an area control game.
Yeah,
it's by Eric Lang, and all the hallmarks of his game are here. And this is actually it's the next iteration of Chaos in the Old World, which I enjoy, but I like this one better, and here's why. Chaos in the Old World has asymmetrical factions, which is great. It's a different type of game. This one, you all start the same. You all have the same player board, but through the genius of the card drafting, your faction is going to end up playing differently than everyone else's, depending on what you put out there, how you basically level up your characters and your all your ships and fighter warriors and leaders. Oh, I love it so much, and it uses card drafting in a way that it's really simple to learn, but then you're going to really dive deep in the strategy as you start to learn these cards. So you're going to get better as you play this game.
I recall it's Seven Wonders card drafting, right? The whole, exactly, I got a hand, I'm going to keep one and hand the rest to my neighbor kind of thing.
And the rest of the other, yeah. So there's always that tension, especially at the start of the round, that first tension, like that first draft. You keep a card, but you're giving 6 cards that are going to help your opponent. And if someone's going to go for the Loki strategy, you're giving them a card, you're going to be dead meat, So that's that tension every round. What am I keeping? What am I going to give to my opponents? And the game plays over 3 ages, and it's always a really just a wonderful 90-minute gameplay, and it's so epic, yet it always plays in 90 minutes. I love everything about this game. It's got the cool mini or not minis. I mean, just and they're not all mini. There's some huge ones in there too, folks. And I've always loved this game, and it will always be one of my favorites, and that's why it's our number 8, Blood Rage.
A very impressive game. You might be saying, under what circumstances did Rahdo ever film a run-through for Blood Rage? I did, folks.
That's what I was thinking, yeah.
This is me playing. I just want to do a quick shout-out for the board game digital app called Dized, D-I-Z-E-D, which you can get on a smartphone or a tablet, or you can actually do on computers or laptops now, too. I actually did a run-through of Dized, and I used it to teach me how to play Blood Rage. This is actually me learning how to play Blood Rage, playing along while the Dized app is walking me through it every step of the way. So, Dized, boy, I really hope it catches on. Publishers, there is no better way in the universe for you to spend your budget for getting people to learn your game than getting your game on Dized and getting people to download it. It's just, who wouldn't want the game taught to them by an interactive tutorial with animations and music and sound effects and dramatic actors reading and describing how to play? Anyway, sorry, that's just a sidestep for Dized, but yes, I mean, Blood Rage, is it Eric Lang's masterpiece? Has he, I know he's done other games in this milieu since, but does anything touch Blood Rage?
I feel like it's, I mean, he's done so many great games.
Yeah.
For me personally, this is the pinnacle because it's one of those games where it's deep enough for hardcore board gamers, but still it's definitely not a gateway game. It's even more than a gateway plus, but it's still accessible enough where you can teach it to someone who's fairly new to games and they'll figure it out. I mean, you're going to crush them, but they're going to figure it out and they'll learn how to play it. So at least that was my experience when I first played it. I got crushed by 100 points or whatever, but then it still made me want to play it more because I felt like I understood how to play it, and I knew that going forward I'm going to try different strategies. So yeah, for me it's Mr. Lang's masterpiece.
Well, a good choice. But if you want to talk about masterpieces, folks, forget about Blood Rage. Let's go on to our number 7, the OG worker placement game from Uwe Rosenberg, Agricola. Of course, Agricola. Oh my gosh. Folks, let me just start off by saying Agricola is a great worker placement game, but it's not the worker placement that really makes this game stand out. It is the depth and richness of the simulation of this game, where we are medieval era German subsistence farmers, just barely scraping by, trying to raise a family, trying to graze our crops, trying to handle our livestock, whether we've got cows all over the place or we're trying to raise Dolly the sheep, whatever it might be. And every time you play, the beauty of this game, as part of setup, if you play with the standard rules, there are simplified rules you can play with as well. But as part of setup, you get, if I recall correctly, you get a big hand of what are called minor improvement cards and a big hand of occupation cards. And either whether you're going to do it through a draft or there's several different ways, you can ultimately end up with a hand of 14 cards, 7 improvements, 7 of the minor or of the occupations. And that's the secret sauce of this game, because every step of the way, you are trying to figure out a game that's going to take place, if I recall correctly, over 16 rounds. Right. I think in round 15, that's when I'm going to want to play this card. But to do that, I will have had to have played this card at least by round 13, so it will have accrued enough resources so I can get this thing out before the game is over in round 15. But this other card, really, I'll have a hard time doing it unless I don't have this pair of cards up and running by round 2 or 3. I love Agricola because it is an interesting combination of really sharp tactical play, the worker placement, because there are very few worker placement spots, and if worker placement spots don't get activated, they get better over time as more and more things accumulate on them until somebody eventually says, okay, to heck with it, I gotta grab all that clay even that nobody's grabbed. So even though I don't need it, I gotta have it. There's so much of it. So it's really razor tight, the worker placement tension. So the tactics of trying to figure out, right, okay, there's no way you want that clay. You're not gonna take that clay. And if I wait one more round, there'll be one more clay there, and that's enough I need to upgrade my house from wood to clay so that I can use this special power that will get me 2 extra rooms and a baby. It's cool, really interesting combos like that. But then, if you're paying attention, you might grab that clay because, wow, that clay's been there for a while. So the tension from worker placement is wonderful. It's straightforward but wonderful. But it's this long-term strategy. Having these 14 cards, in a given game, you're only going to play 4 or 5 of them. Maybe 6, because there's just no time to get all these things done. You'll learn a couple occupations, you'll make a few minor improvements, maybe 1 or 2 major improvements, but if you can work it all out so everything comes together brilliantly, you will reap huge rewards, and it is absolutely brilliant, and near infinite replayability. This game, in the base box, comes with so many cards, so much flexibility, so much replayability, because these cards are all powerful and interesting, and this game has had over a decade now of diehard fans developing cards. The publishers have been taking them, putting out more and more expansion content, but even the base game is amazing. And in fact, I believe this year, Agricola is going to be getting a 15th anniversary super deluxe edition as well. I'm looking forward to checking that out. But yeah, folks, it's amazing. It is a number 7, Agricola.
Yeah, all the reasons you're talking about. It's why it's an older game, but it's still relevant to this day. And again, hugely influential. And, as you said, Uwe's masterpiece.
Yep.
Nice.
Yes, and by the way, I say that, folks. I'm hoping Ruel, I don't know what's on his list. I don't know what's coming. He doesn't know what's coming for me. I hope he doesn't have Caverna on his list, because I'm sure some people are saying, wait a minute, Caverna, which is basically a fantasy sequel to Agricola. Most people consider it to be their game.
Funny.
There is no two ways about it. Agricola is the superior design because it makes you work harder. Superior for me anyway. I love it. But somehow Ruel thinks there's something even better out there. What's our number 6?
Yeah, I mean, let's stay in this realm of masterpieces. I believe the next one is this designer's masterpiece, and that's why it's our number 6 of all time. Yeah. This is Martin Wallace's masterpiece, Brass Birmingham.
Okay.
This was a redo of his game Brass, and
or Brass Lancashire. But the original game was Brass Lancashire. It got reprinted, and then Birmingham was a spin-off.
That's right. Yes. And I like Birmingham even more. I just it's brilliant. It is. This is the game that really burns my brain, but in a good way. You know, it's you're building networks or routes and networks there. And I'm looking at your run through. Wow, I don't remember seeing this run through. That you've got the camera on the stand there. Or
this is interesting. This is one of the last run throughs I ever did free cam style. For years, as I was doing free cam videos, I always had static cam views. It's just nobody ever saw them because I just listed them in the show notes. But I figured I better use this for here because I didn't want to have the camera whipping around and have people get motion sick and stuff like that. So that's a rare glimpse into what it was like for me to film those static cameras. Look at all the stuff on that camera. It was very heavy.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Wow. So this game... Brilliant game.
Yeah.
It's a card-driven game, so you're playing cards. Gather or go to different cities there in England. It's an industrial age game, so you're trying to develop different industries. You play in 2 ages, right? You're going to build ship routes with canals, and then after the age 2 before age 2 starts, you're going to reset. You're going to start building railways, and you need to connect those in order to ship your goods and move them out. Gather the resources that you need to build those, and then score victory points based on that. And you're going to eventually, earn some steady income. And this game is all about timing, folks. You really want to time it just right to sell at the highest price to, sell your goods and your resources, and also to gather the resource that you need to unlock other things. It's, oh my gosh, I'm just looking at it. It really makes my brain hurt, but I've always enjoyed my plays of this. It's unlike any other game that I play. This is a heavier Euro. I mean, it's heavy. It's no ways about it.
Yeah.
And it's going to be about an hour and a half, 2 hours, maybe even 3, depending on player count. But boy, oh boy, it's for what it is. It's so smooth playing and just a brilliant masterpiece. That's why it's our number 6, Brass Birmingham.
I can't argue with that. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I mean the thing about that game is the synergy between players.
Yeah.
Oh, you built that that beer brewery? Thanks. I'm going to go ahead and take all that beer. I needed to keep my workers happy. And you're like, yes, excellent. That's why I built it. Because this is a game where everything somebody does is going to potentially benefit someone else, and winning is all about reading the table. Oh, hey, you made a new canal, or later on a rail line. Perfect. That's exactly what I needed to connect mine, and that's why you did it, because you're going to get a payday every time I use that canal made by you. So sharp. Yeah, Martin Wallace is, really. I mean, he's done a lot of amazing things, but I think with a lot of people would agree with good reason, that is his number 1 game.
Definitely.
Cool.
Yeah, so
and
good.
yet, there's something better. Somehow, folks. Ruel seemed to forget that as great as Brass Birmingham is, what's even better? Something that has absolutely nothing to do with it. The cooperative dungeon crawling Gloomhaven. Oh, yeah. Gloomhaven is so good. So very good. And first of all, I should say, I don't have Gloomhaven on screen right now. This is the sequel, Jaws of the Lion. It was just a nicer looking video. My Gloomhaven videos are really old, and they were filmed with prototype parts. So I figured, okay, I'll just show Jaws of the Lion, which is the sequel. But whether you play Jaws of the Lion, or the original Gloomhaven, or the hopefully soon to be released this year, Frosthaven, the big super sequel everybody's waiting for, this dungeon delving will never get any better than this as far as I'm concerned. I mentioned earlier how Terraforming Mars rocketed up the charts when it came out all those years ago. So did Gloomhaven, and Gloomhaven, I believe, is still sitting in the number 1 spot on Board Game Geek. So amongst hardcore board game fans, everyone agrees this is the king of the crop. But why? What makes this stand out? Because there's dozens, hundreds of dungeon crawl board games out there. This game, well, first of all, it's cooperative, but that's not what makes it special. What makes it special is the truly simple core idea that drives everything. While we are a group of mercenary adventurers going in, saving people, fighting monsters, whatever it is, standard fantasy stuff, our characters are driven by a hand of cards. We have our entire hand of cards for our character right at the beginning of adventure. Depending on the character, you might have 8 cards, you might have 13 cards, but you don't have very many. And these cards represent everything you can do. And the brilliance of these cards is each one of them is a multi-use card that can do 4 different things. They have 2 tops and 2 bottoms. And every round, every player is going to pick 2 cards from their hand to play. One of which they'll do an option from the top of one card and an option from the bottom of the other card. And that sounds simple. And it is simple. But the depth and richness of this game comes from all the different ways you can combo all these cards to achieve your goals of trying to fight slimes or loot treasure chests or whatever it's going to be. And and I said they have 4 options because, hey, you might want to play a card. They always have the really cool, interesting, complex action, but each card could also just be say, hey, I'm just going to attack for 2 or I'm going to move for 2. So they have really simple things they can do and really complex things they can do. And whether you like it, every round, you must pick 2 of those cards and play them. And and at the end of your round, you will lose one of them. And the other one you will get to hold on to, but this is a war of attrition. You didn't start out with very many cards, and even though this game can take a couple hours to play, it's big and long, those 13 cards will slowly, now I'm just down to 9 cards, and you're slowly losing them, and the game seems to be beautifully designed, so it's always when you kick down the door to the last room that you're like, I've only got 3 cards left! I don't know if I'm going to be able to make this work! Ah! But folks, I've kind of buried the lead. That's the basics of what's cool about the cards, but then there's the extra trick. We're all working cooperatively, but we're mercenaries. We don't necessarily trust each other. We've all just been hired to do this job, and we all have secret goals that we want to achieve to earn experience. While we all need to win to move forward in the game, I can't tell you that I'm secretly trying to be the player who gets the killing blow on at least X number of enemies. So sometimes it'll be real, we'll be talking about strategy before we pick our cards, and Ruel will say, well, really, you should go over and do that. And like, nope, I'm going to go kill that thing. Like, that thing's not even bothering us. No, I got to go kill it. Trust me, it'll make sense. And, and that's a simple little thing, but it really, for me, enriches the flavor of this game and makes me feel like, I don't know if I can trust you at any given time. Why are you off looting all the time? Well, there's enough money to go around. Stop it. I have an objective. And I mean, I love that. There are so many things I love about this game. I could do an hour on this show. In fact, I have. You go watch my final thoughts for these games. Oh my gosh, I just won't stop talking about them. The other thing that I will come back to, I'll just mention one more thing. When you're deciding which 2 cards you're going to play, there's one other very important element. Each card has an initiative value on it. Yes. One of those 2 cards is going to be the speed with which you act. It's anywhere from 0 to 99. And I can't tell you, when I'm picking cards, what I'm going to pick. I can't tell you how fast I'm going to go. I could pick these 2 cards because what I plan to do is very quickly heal you and then run over and bomb that thing, and I'll hopefully, if I kill it, I'll be close enough that I can get the loot. That's my plan. I can talk to you about that in very simple forms. I can say, hey, I'm going to heal you, I'm going to run over here, I'm going to hit that thing. But I can't tell you, I'm going to heal you for 6 points, I'm going to be able to move 3 steps, and this was originally designed because the game is so rich and complex, they wanted the game to be able to move along quickly. They didn't want players to, spend too much time. Well, let's analyze everything. Oh, you can move 4 steps. If you could move 5 steps, well, I do have these boots. Those will let me move 6. It takes all that out. So the gameplay is much more smooth and streamlined because you're not allowed to dwell on all those little, tricky, one more or one less point, might make or break me. Tell me what you're going to do, but also tell me how fast you're going to go. You say you're going to go fast. Well, I need to go before you. If I play this speed with a 22, will I go faster than you? Because if you're going to run away, I need to heal you before you run away. It's all I'm going to go fast. I'm going to go pretty fast. Okay, I need to change my mind. Okay, I'm going to have to play my fastest card, and I'll have to put this other thing on hold. And then we reveal, and for you, you're a slow character. Pretty fast was like a 30. I'm like, So it's an imperfect communication game that really enhances the overall feel. Although, to be fair, there are rules where you can have perfect communication if you want, and then you just have to increase the difficulty of the game because things get easier if everybody knows exactly when everybody's going to go. But, oh man, Jen and I love it to pieces. For a year, we devoted every Sunday to playing this. No matter what was going on in our lives, we were going to get together. So we've actually finished the main storyline of Gloomhaven, which is very tough for us in my line of work where I'm constantly playing new games. But Gloomhaven, we played it to pieces. It's as far as I'm concerned, the greatest dungeon crawl of all time, and it is number 5 on the list. Gloomhaven.
Yeah, I'm glad you talked about that initiative system and the imperfect communication.
Yes.
For me, that's what made my experience with it. I've had very limited experience with Gloomhaven, but I've dropped in a couple of different campaigns with friends, and just that part of it has always stood out to me. And it's fun. And one of these days, I would love to run the whole campaign, but like you said, you have to devote the time to it. It's not something you just pick up and go. Like I want to fully experience it now. The Jaws of the Lion. How did you find that? That's a smaller, more accessible version, correct?
That was the other reason I decided to show Jaws of the Lion. Even though when I say Gloomhaven, I'm talking about the entire Gloomhaven system. However you're going to play Gloomhaven, I'm talking about that. If I have at all piqued your interest, folks, if you've heard about it and this pushed you over the line, do not go out and pick up Gloomhaven. It's very big, it's very heavy, it's very expensive. It's a huge commitment. Go out and get Jaws of the Lion, which is priced very comparable to a regular board game. It comes with 25 missions, 4 unique characters, and one of the industry's best tutorials ever. Nice. An amazing tutorial that'll take you through the first few missions because Gloomhaven comes with a super thick manual. It's daunting to learn how to play this game. It is the very definition of throwing people into the deep end of the pool. But Jaws of the Lion really puts those waders on you. You're having fun in those first few missions, learning things step by step. It's so brilliantly done. And it's a relatively low-priced game, certainly compared to Gloomhaven itself, which is a ginormous box with a ginormous amount of content. Jaws of the Lion. But again, I could have said Jaws of the Lion was number 5, but for me, it's just all of Gloomhaven combined.
Agreed. Yeah, nice. Yeah, you could get Jaws of the Lion like your local Target, for really, really dirt cheap. So a great choice.
All right.
Now, before we move to number 4, I had a tough time figuring out where I was going to put this number 4. It might have gone. I was thinking it should have gone lower, but as we put together this list, it kept going higher and higher in my estimation, and it's my favorite worker placement game of all time. It is number 4, Viticulture Essential Edition.
Okay. You know what? I should have known that. Okay. I should have known that.
This one, again, there are more complex worker placement games, but this one, for my money, it really melds the theme and the mechanisms together perfectly. There's no other place I'd rather be than in Italy on a vineyard, trying to become the most prosperous vineyard of them all. And I want to talk about this too, in the sense that as far as a solo game, this was hugely influential because it was the first game with the Automa system.
Yes.
And the Automa has become my favorite way to play a solo game. It's card driven. Those are very simple systems to learn, and they give you a very nice feel for the true game. As you can see there in the run through, I'm actually playing it solo there on my channel there. And what you're doing is sending out your workers to the vineyard to do different tasks to grow grapes to become wine, and you're going to get them. You're going to stomp on them, make wine, and you're going to age the grapes and wine year to year. That's round after round, and eventually fill orders. And some customers want red wine, some want white, some want champagne, and so forth. Just everything about this. I love this. The first time I played it, I fell in love with it, and my love for it's only grown, especially with the expansions. Tuscany, if you're a hardcore gamer, I think Tuscany is a must. It gets a different board, gives you more actions, more things to do. You can add in buildings and all kinds of other goodies. And recently, just this past week, they put up Viticulture World for sale, and that is the cooperative version. You can check out here on Rahdo Runs Through, his run through on it. I'm also going to be running through it on my Twitch channel live real soon. I'm looking forward to the cooperative game. Michelle and I love this game. All my friends love this game. For my money, this is the perfect worker placement game that melds the worker placement mechanism and theme. I mean, you're literally sending workers out there to do the work of running a vineyard. And another, I should say, along with the Automa system, another thing that's brought in was the Grande worker, which I love. This is a worker that, most worker placements games, you go on a spot, you've blocked it off from the other players. The Grande worker, it's literally a bigger meeple, what can go on those spots that have already been used, and you can use that same action. I love that because I never feel like I'm shut out of stuff. I just have to save my Grande worker for the spot that I really want. But I adore this game from start to finish, and that's why it's our number 4, Viticulture Essential Edition.
Well, let me just say, you're welcome if you love the Grande that much, because I had a little bit of impact on the design of this game. I covered it when it was on
please.
Yeah, well, it's not much of a story. I covered it when it was on Kickstarter. I had some complaints about it. For me and Jen as a particular type of player, Jamie took that on board and said, you know what way we could fix that? How about the Grande? The Grande used to work very differently in the pre-release edition. It was much more limited, and so things changed around a little bit, just in part because of my video. But
Nice.
that's neither here nor there. The game stands on its own. It's absolutely brilliant. Whichever version you get, the Essential Edition or the original edition with the Tuscany. But man, I cannot agree enough. What really elevates this game to the stratosphere is the new Viticulture World expansion, which does such a brilliant job of taking what was a brilliant competitive worker placement game and turning it into that rarest of beasts, a brilliant cooperative worker placement game. And oh man, wait till you try the new solo mode. The old solo Automa system was nice, but playing the co-op solo, oh my gosh, it is. They came up with the Automa developers went back and they came up with a completely new way to do it that's so simple and elegant and brilliant. And I am sure a lot of people agree. I mean, for a lot of people, Viticulture is the number one. Actually, we're streaming live right now on June 7th, and somebody in the chat says, as you were leading up to it, there goes my number 4, Caverna. But then you didn't, because you were leading up. Oh, what's up? But yeah. A fantastic game, totally worth it. And okay, so I think we've just gone for number 4, which is something that everybody everywhere will agree with. Yeah, maybe I wouldn't put it there, but can't blame him. Yep. It deserves it. Yep. To the weirdest entry on this list, the one that's really going to make people say, "What? Okay. Really?" Your number 3, the R&R show's number 3 greatest game of all time is Shadowrun Crossfire? Yes, it is.
What?
Yes.
Really?
Yes. As if on cue. The hue and cry heard around the land. What? Really? Shadowrun Crossfire? Yes.
Wow.
Oh my gosh, this game is as close to perfection as I have ever seen. A wonderful, fast-playing, cooperative card game set in a cyberpunk future. Although it's a really, for folks who don't know, the Shadowrun role-playing system that this is based on is actually a cyberpunk fused with fantasy. Because apparently, and I don't know, in the year 2010 or something like that, fantasy creatures started showing up in our worlds, and then 100 years later, we're in Blade Runner, but there's orcs and stuff running around. So I have to admit, the Shadowrun is always an interesting idea, but it's never really attracted me. I'm not here for that. I am here for the absolutely rock-solid, brilliant cooperative play. And one of the things that really elevates this for me and my wife, Jen, is it is at once one of the fastest-playing co-op games you will ever play. Jen and I will finish a game of this from start to finish, including setup in a half an hour. It's also one of the hardest. Most people who play this for the first few times, or and maybe for the first many times, come away saying, this game is practically impossible to win. It's totally unbeatable because every round, we are adventurers. We've just finished a heist. Everything went bad, and we're just trying to get out of town. And every single mercenary in the city of future cyberpunk Seattle, actually, is chasing us down, trying to kill us and get the bounty. And all we're trying to do is survive and just take out all the baddies who come after us. And we're doing it through a very simple deck building system. You start with a very small deck of cards. Over the course of the game, you'll buy maybe 5 or 6 cards, and your deck had like 10, 12 cards to begin with, so there wasn't very much anyway. But every purchase you make in this game is so important because you'll see that card over and over and over again. And they are cards that give you resources for other things. They have all kinds of interesting powers. There's different colors that represent different types of things they can do. Kind of almost a Magic the Gathering style thing, but still very different in feel. But the thing that elevates this so far above, it comes back to what I was just saying. Most people, the first few times they play, they think this game is literally impossible. You cannot win. And that is because this game throws every single preconceived notion you have about how to survive in a co-op fantasy adventure game out the window. Like a really good example is, do not buy the healing cards. The Dock Wagon. Everybody sees that, oh, of course, we only have a few hit points. And every time we get hit, of course, we should use this to keep myself and my teammate alive. No. If you are playing defense, then you are losing. If you are just trying to staunch the bleeding, you will not make it out alive. This game is all about being on offense because there's one brilliant thing. You're going to go through 3 waves of bad guys. And if you can get through a wave fast enough, whatever it takes to do, then you will get a free extra shopping round with extra rewards and extra free healing. So everything about this game is timing your momentum, the tempo that you are fighting with. And the other thing, I did a little miniature strategy guide. If you do a search for Rahdo strategy tips, it was, I can't think of her name now. Really great. You probably know her well. I know she's in LA. She does a series of Tell Me How to Play, I think is the name of the show.
Oh, yeah. Show Me How to Win. Right?
Show Me How to Win. Do a search for Rahdo. Show Me How to Win, and you'll see me with Jackie. Yeah. And I'm just giving you a brief thing of what I talked about there. The other thing is, do not play all your cards. Deck builder games have taught you, hey, okay, I've got all these cards, I gotta play them so I can get more.
Yep.
That's a way to die in this game. Only play a card when it's really gonna matter. If it only gets you halfway towards fighting a monster, don't play it. Hold on to it, because chances are, next round, you're gonna need it for something much more important. And so, this game, it just throws every convention out the window. It breaks the rules of deck builders, it breaks the rules of co-ops, and it provides you with one of the fastest playing, most aggressive, challenging games there is. And don't feel too bad, because if you lose, hey, it only took you like 20 minutes and you can set up and play it again immediately. Again, like Gloomhaven before, I barely scratched the surface. Another thing I love is the abort. If everybody in the team goes down and there's only one person left, the rules change. Every single bad guy jumps on that last remaining hero player, and if that hero player can survive one round going through that gamut, they successfully pull everybody out. So it's an alternate win condition. And when Jen and I have pulled that off, it's almost better than getting a straight win, because it's right out of an action movie, and you get everything about this game. You're just constantly envisioning these rain-swept cyberpunk alleys, fights for the death, stopping every once in a while to recharge and get some extra gear and hopefully get out of town. I love everything about it. I should say, I'm sure some people ask, well, what about Dragonfire, which is basically the sequel, and it's set in the Dungeons and Dragons universe. I've actually talked about that quite a bit in my final thoughts on Dragonfire. It's very, very nice, but they made some changes to actually simplify the game and make it easier, and I'm a bit of a masochist. I like getting beat up, which is why Shadowrun Crossfire comes in at number 3.
Wow. I knew how much you love this game. I didn't know it was going to be this highly ranked, so I need to play this game. It sounds so cool, and for a 20 to 30 minute game, that sounds like such a great experience, and I can't wait to try it. So, 30 minutes, the game for my personal, or our number 2, my personal number 1 of all time, it does not take 30 minutes to play. Yeah. In fact, it doesn't even take 30 minutes to teach the game, to learn the game. It's going to take a lot longer. My favorite game of all time, and it's our number 2, Twilight Imperium, 4th edition. No surprise if you know me, folks. I absolutely love this game. And this is such an outlier for me, because I do not like games that take more than 2 hours to play. I'm more of a, give me an hour and a half, at most an hour. But this one it takes 6 hours to play normally. And I played the game, my most recent game, it nearly broke me. I played a 12-hour game of this with the expansion. But it's so unique. There's nothing else like it, and it is an event, folks. It is not just a game, it's an event. You plan for a whole day. You plan it out with your friends. It is a 4X game. It's a space opera in a box, basically. 17 different factions. They all play differently. It's asymmetrical. And what you're trying to do, it's just a race to 10 points. That's it. A very simple race to 10 points, but it's going to take you hours to get there, so be prepared. But here's the thing. As much as this game is hyped for its length, it's not that complicated, folks. You're doing exactly one action per turn. And most of the time you're going to do the actions that are listed on your player aid. You also have strategy cards that you're going to do. So if you do a strategy card, other players can follow, and it's very much like Puerto Rico, where you get like a lesser ability form of that action, which I think is brilliant because it keeps you engaged in the game. As you see in the video there, you can see one of the factions, many of them. Boy, oh boy, this game, there's a negotiation, a diplomacy factor to this game that kicks into play when someone takes over the middle planet, the main planet of the universe, which is Mechatol Rex. A little shout out to my friend Becca Scott. We call it Bechatol Rex in her honor whenever we get together to play. Boy, oh boy, it's epic in all sense of the word. You start in your little corner of the galaxy with a few ships. You're going to eventually spread out your influence, and you are going to fight. But here's the thing. As much as this game is a 4X, you don't have to get into combat to win.
Yeah.
I've been in several games, where players have either only gotten into one fight or no fights because there are different objectives. You have your public objectives that people all shoot for the point, but then you have secret objectives too, and you can get those throughout the game. And those range from like, hey, just have a certain number of resources that you can spend, or hey, have a certain number of influence, control different types of planets. So it's not always about conflict, but it's that threat of conflict that drives this game. And the stories of this game. Let me back up. I did this challenge before the pandemic. I wanted to play Twilight Imperium 10 times in a calendar year. And I accomplished that through, friends and, different conventions. And every single one of those games, I can tell you a little bit about every single one because they're so unique and they tell such great stories of how, hey, my space cats, the, Emirates of Hakan, we were able to rule the universe through our, awesome trade values and being able to trade with folks in order to. I was able to, sneak away with the victory because I was able to get enough goods to do this on the final turn. There's so many stories like that. I mean, just epic battles, epic confrontations, and always inevitably someone hosing someone through a deal. Like, oh, I promise I won't attack you on this turn. But that doesn't mean I can't attack you on the next turn, that's going to happen. This is not the game for everyone, but at the same time, I feel like gamers, folks, give it a shot if you can, because it's such an event and it's so epic in scope, and everything works together, everything makes sense. It just takes a while to play, and when I mean a while, I mean all day. But it's my number one game of all time, and it's our number 2 on the R&R Show's Top 100 of all time, Twilight Imperium 4th Edition.
Yeah, I do look for, even though it's not my cup of tea, I do look forward. I feel like it's on my bucket list. I have to try that at some point. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And that's what it was. It was on my bucket list for years. And, again, thanks to Becca and Jake Michaels, director over there that she works with on Good Time Society. He invited me to a game one time, and I sat down, I played, and it lived up to all the hype and then some, and I fell in love with it. Again, it's not something I'm going to play on a regular basis, but when I do, it's an event, and it's so special, and I love it so much.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, the only thing you said right up front, the video we were watching a bunch of images because I don't have a video of it on the channel. And I keep pestering Shay Parker, another contributor to the channel. Shay, it's your number 1 game of all time too. Where's my Twilight Imperium 4 run through on the channel? Well, you know where he lives. Go beat down his door. I want the two of you doing a run through of this thing so the rest of the world can get a sense for why it's our number 2.
Yeah, and speaking of Shay, I do want to mention this. His channel, RTFM, he has the number 1 rules teach of that video. Yes. And that's how I learned the game. And because of Shay's video, I give that video to any new player. I say, watch this first, because it's the best explanation, bar none, out there for that game.
Yep, cool. All right, well, This is it, folks. You've been waiting since February for the number 1. And if you're at all familiar with me and my channel, you knew what it was back in February. Well, what's my number 1 game of all time? We have not worked this out ahead of time. I think you can probably take a fairly good educated guess.
I'll take a stab at this. Is it Caverna? No. Is it Pandemic?
Yes, it is Pandemic. Nice. Pandemic, top ranked game in the world, according to me. And I know it ranks incredibly high for you as well, right?
It does. It's just a real quick personal note. This is the game that got me into the hobby. I bought this
me too.
As a birthday present to myself. Yes, and I soloed it. Michelle really wasn't into the gameplay, but I loved it, and that's what got me into the hobby. Yes. Yep.
Well, I mean, I think everybody knows about Pandemic. I don't know. I really have to spend much time. First of all, let me say, when I put it in the number 1 spot, it's not just core vanilla Pandemic. Again, like I mentioned with Gloomhaven, I'm talking about the Pandemic experience, because over the years, we have got so many expansions for Pandemic. Pandemic really popularized the idea of legacy gameplay with Pandemic Legacy Season 1, which was such a hugely important milestone for the history of the industry. And we've gotten all these really awesome spin-offs like Fall of Rome and Iberia and whatnot. So all those things combined, all in my head goes into the soup that is Pandemic and becomes the number 1. But what is Pandemic? Pandemic is a cooperative race against time to save the world from the spread of various virulent diseases. And of course, it's a particularly timely game in the world we live in right now. And I've talked about this in the past, that some people was like, well, isn't it kind of bad taste to talk about Pandemic? I don't think so, because the story Pandemic tells casts us in the role of true heroes. Frontline first responders, medical personnel whose only goal in life is to save lives and stop the spread of disease. To me, Pandemic has always told the story of humanity at its best in darkest times. And I think it reminds us of we owe such a huge mountain of gratitude to all these people in real life. When I play this game, I am thinking of the doctors and nurses who have helped me and my family. I am thinking of the people who are out there trying to get fresh drinking water so that disease won't spread, all this kind of stuff, because in this game it's actually, everything else I just set aside, an incredibly important, influential design. It might not be the first co-op game out there, but this is the one that made the industry say, oh, there's a market for co-op. And it created a blueprint that probably 80% of all successful co-op games now follow. I like to call it the Fighting Fires blueprint, because you've got a board, and every round there's going to be some randomizing feature. In this game, it's a deck of cards that will make cubes appear that you have to go out and fight. And these things will spread if left alone. They will metastasize. And so you're always having to work with your fellow players to come up with the best strategy to stay one step ahead of them. But you have to divide your time between just fighting all those fires. Sometimes this has actually showed up in real firefighting games, actually, more than one. But you always have some central goal that you're trying to achieve too. In this game, we're trying to actually cure the diseases. And at its heart, the way we do all of this is multi-use cards. Nobody ever talks about this. Pandemic is one of the greatest examples of multi-use cards in the history of the industry, because you generally have a hand of, depending on player count, you start with a different number of hands, but you draw more cards over time. There's a maximum hand size you can have, and each one of these cards represents a city somewhere in the world. And these cards can be used for several different things. If you're in that city, you can play the card to fly anywhere you want. If you're anywhere but that city, you can play the card to fly directly there. If you have in your hand a group of cards of the same color that represents a region of the world, you can discard them at certain places in the world to cure the disease that's associated with that region. And that is what we are trying to do in this game as fast as we can, racing against time. I won't go into all the different variants and offshoots and all that, but every single version of Pandemic you'll ever play has that core idea of firefighting. I'm actually showing a brief video I did once of Pandemic on the Brink, which is it was the first expansion and still one of the best. Also, not for nothing, Pandemic has had such a huge impact on me and my wife's life, in part because, like Ruel, this is what got me into the hobby. I bought it because it was recommended to me at a board game store called Blue Highway Games in Seattle when I went in looking for a copy of Travel Scrabble, because Jen and I were about to take a trip, and they said, no, you're not going to buy that. Tell me about yourself. What do you and your wife like? And I walked out of there with Pandemic, and that led to where we are today, quite frankly. If I'd chosen a different game, I don't think this is where we'd be. Also, my wife, who is a glass artist of gamerglass.art, one of her most popular lines of gamer glass pieces she makes is the Pandemic virus set that we've got there on screen. They're just cute, adorable. Just adds a little bit of color and flavor to the game. But, I just talked about it quite a bit, and I said I wasn't going to need to because everybody knows what Pandemic is, and yet I just spent so much time, so I'm going to stop right there. Pandemic, especially more than anything else, above all else, Pandemic Legacy Season 1 has given me and my wife, literally, in my 53 years on this planet, the best gameplay experience of anything. And I put sports, I put video games, Pandemic Legacy Season 1 moved us in such a way, and it moved the industry. It's an incredibly important game, and it's a brilliant game. Number one on our list, Pandemic.
Yeah, no surprises there, and for a good reason. Yeah, Pandemic Legacy, one of my all-time favorite Legacy experiences.
Yes.
Like you said, the storyline of that is outstanding, and just a little shout out to one of my favorite versions of it, the dice game. I love Pandemic: The Cure. It's a very neat little implementation using dice, which I always enjoy. I before the smaller box versions of the game came out, like North America and Europe, I was using Pandemic Cure as the one to introduce new players to.
Oh, a fantastic gateway game, a fantastic travel game too. Pandemic, the Cure, definitely. Yep. Where it's Pandemic and it replaces the cards that drive everything with dice that drive everything. Yeah. Wonderful. I mean, there's so many wonderful shades of Pandemic out there. How could it not be the greatest board game of all time? Some might agree, but I stand by it. Okay, folks.
All right.
We've done it. Started in February,
we did
ended in June. Phew.
Yeah. Woo.
Okay, but before we go, folks, were you listening? Did one of us say the secret word Dolly? Did you, Ruel? I don't remember if I did. I don't know. And folks, you have to listen. And if you heard one of us say it, send the name of the game to contest@rahdo.com. Oops, I put the wrong thing. Send the name of the game to contest@rahdo.com. I remember right at the beginning, I deleted everything. I was so dumb and I couldn't undelete it. Windows Notepad doesn't really have much in the way of undelete, unfortunately. I really need to upgrade. But if you heard one of us say Dolly, what game was it? Send that name of the game as the subject. And you'll be entered to win First Rat, which again, this is a lovely, lovely game. Really very, very surprising. And that's it. We're done. Okay, Ruel. Again, as we said up front, this is the final weekly episode of the R&R. We were doing it just about a year. I think we started in late June or early July of last year.
Yeah.
And it has been a long road, but the road is not over, folks. It's going to continue. You'll be able to see us on June 28th and 29th. We'll be getting together for another R&R. So hey, you know what? Absent makes the heart go fonder. It'll be a bit more of an event.
That's right.
But we'll still be doing stuff in the meantime as more and more content gets unlocked by folks watching on Twitch. So I want to say a big shout out to everybody, to our little board game family we've developed over the last year on Twitch. Really so satisfying to see our little community grow here. Thanks to everybody on YouTube who watches this show and makes it as popular as it is. I'm always surprised that within the first week, we generally have about 5,000 views within the first month. Often we have upwards of 10. That's a huge hit. So, we're not done yet. We got to keep on working on it.
We're going to keep doing it. And again, just along those lines, I want to thank everyone on YouTube, Twitch, and also the BGG Guild, just, for welcoming me with open arms here on the Rahdo channel. I really appreciate y'all. Y'all have been nothing but kind and welcoming, and it's been an honor and a pleasure working with Richard every week. But again, we're not done. We're going to continue this just on a different schedule from here on out. So we got plenty of stuff to go. And we're not done right now either, because I'm going to say thanks for watching. Talk to you later. So long. Bye-bye. And then we're going to go to the post show, and we're going to have a little bit of a chit chat with the audience. So, Ruel, once again, thanks for going on this journey with me. Audience, thanks for making it all possible. And along those same lines, thanks to sponsor of the show, Pegasus North America. Have a very, very nice day, everybody. Talk to you later. So long. Bye-bye.